So this is when you don't, again, you don't want to do manufacturing in the traditional sense in QuickBooks. You want to do all estimates. Okay? So the way you would do that and the way we would do it is we're going to send all the raw materials to a specific WIP account. We're going to throw everything into the WIP account, and then we're going to extract the value from that WIP account. This is going to be a little bit long, and this would probably be the last long example for this session, but it'll be really interesting for you to kind of see the mechanics of how this works. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and go, we're going to make a different product. Okay? So in this case, let's just make a different product altogether. So I'm going to go and create a bill, and I'm going to bring in some, let's say I'm going to bring in some, you know what, same product. So I'm going to create a WIP account. I'm going to call it WIP. Okay. So basically everything I'm going to buy it into this big WIP account. I'm going to send everything into other current asset. So I'm going to buy some bunch of glycerin. Let's go to Texas here. So I'm going to buy, let's say I'm going to buy $5,000 worth of glycerin from these people. Let's do this on the 19th. Okay, and I'm also going to buy some bottles. We're doing the same exact thing. Okay, but instead of using units, instead of respecting the manufacturing assembly process, we're going to send everything to this big WIP account. So I'm going to go $2,500 worth of bottles. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to buy something with chemicals, was it? MX Chemicals. And then I'll buy, delete this. Again, to the big WIP account, I'm going to buy $4,000 worth of chemicals. We can do the same thing with labels. So Miami printers, delete that. Again, I'm ignoring the items. I'm ignoring all this stuff, sending everything to WIP. Believe it or not, this is a pretty interesting workaround, and it will give you tons of understanding of how QuickBooks thinks. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go save and close. So I'm going to go into my balance sheet. Okay. And essentially I got this big WIP account where everything that I buy, all my raw materials that I buy, I'm throwing them all into this big WIP account. I'm just doing this differently, so it's a little bit easier to understand. And so I'm not going to track the individual quantities of each component, but I'm only going to track the cost of the final product. Okay? So I'm only going to track the cost of the final product. So the way we do this is we come into, and this is going to be really interesting. We come in and create a new product. So I'm going to go and create, let's say we're going to do, for a different flavor bottle, we're going to do it this way. So we got the, for this one, I'm going to duplicate this one. And then let's say this one is original. So a different product. And instead of worrying about all these different components, I'm actually going to not do any of these components at all. Okay, no components. And then I'll do one only, which I'll create an item, which will be a non-inventory part. And I click on the checkbox. And I'm going to call it WIP cost. Okay. And I'm going to make it, the WIP cost in this case is going to be per ounce. Okay. So let's say that I went in and I threw everything into one big WIP account, and I calculated that my overall per ounce of output, my overall cost per ounce of output is about, let's just say about 3 cents. Okay. So I put 3 cents, and then the expense account, and this is the key one, the expense account will be that WIP account in the balance sheet. Okay. So this is just like a discrete manual way of calculating your cost. And then I click OK. So at this point, I'm just going to take my 20 ounces of estimated per ounce cost, right? And I'm going to throw it into this item, and that's it. And I'm done. So the reason why this is different is because you don't track all the inventory costs. You don't have the headache of tracking the inventory costs. Of course, it's a different issue. If you don't track inventory costs, you can lose it. You can lose money. We get that. But what I'm saying is some people will say, you know what? I just want to track what I have in stock. And I want to have a general idea of what I spend and how much of what I spent I'm consuming. Okay. This is what we call the restaurant model, right? Where restaurants never, think about how many specific steaks you've sold and how many pounds of potatoes. Like the head chef it's looking at it, it's aware of it, but it's not keeping track of every single unit that you use. It's more like, look, in average, every plate that's meat base costs me whatever, $4 a plate. Every plate that is chicken base is $3 a plate. Every plate that's let's say an appetizer or whatever is $2 a plate. And basically they just take the per plate cost, right? So just a simple way to do this, okay? So then we click on OK. And then let's say we went in and we grabbed some raw materials and we built them. So all we're going to have to do is we're going to do our builds. So we do our builds and we pick our item. And let's say right now we built 260 bottles. And done. Simple. No inventory, no individual inventory, no tracking of individual units, no figuring out how much each cost means. You did all that stuff in Excel or whatever before, behind the scenes. And then you're doing this discrete process of just grabbing a per ounce or per unit cost and you're transferring that way. And what's cool about this is, let's go into the balance sheet. It's simple, it's clean, okay? When I look at my WIP account, I see, all my individual costs, and then I see my final transfer of costs. And it upkeeps more or less let's call it the estimated value, okay? So that's another, I personally almost never get hired to do something like that, but I've been with manufacturers that say, Hector, I cannot manage raw materials in QuickBooks. I cannot. No matter what I do, it comes out wrong. I'll put the wrong unit of measure, or I'll put, or I won't adjust it every time we have a yield error, or the waste of the scrap. I don't do that. I just want to know more or less. I know how much my stuff costs me per unit. I want to know how much I have in stock, and I want to know how much I have in inventory raw materials. And that's it. That's totally it. And then when there's some sort of adjustment to that WIP account, you just go into a journal entry and adjust it against cost of goods sold, and that's it.